Welcome to the Business Like a Mother show, where we share real strategy, radical honesty, and the conversations no one else is having. For moms building businesses on their own terms while burning down the patriarchy, one business at a time. Let's jump in. Hey, Renegades. Quick heads up before I launch into this one. Today's episode is not for younger ears. All right, so if you've got kids in the car, this is a good one to either listen to on a headset or save for later. Okay. So, little backstory. I am in Phoenix. We spend a few weeks out here in the summer. Yes, I know we summer in Phoenix. It's not what most people do, but we have family out here, and my kids and my nieces get to play, and it works. It works. So we've been here for coming up on 3 weeks and heading home soon. But today, since we only have a couple days left, I decided to do some kind of fun things with the littler ones, my youngest, who's 5, and my youngest niece, who is 6. And then today I took the 2 older ones, who are both 9. And so we went and we did pottery painting, because I was like, something that we can do inside that's not just, staring at screens, because we've been doing enough of that, and a little different. And so we went to this paint your own pottery place, and it was fun. And I was, kind of patting myself on the back, because I was like, oh, this was fun, and nobody was fighting, and we're going to, be able to take something really nice home. And, like, oh, I'm being such a good mom, right? Which is good. We do need to recognize that. So then afterward, we were in this sort of outdoor shopping area, and there was all these other stores, and they were like, well, can we go look in some other stores? And I said, yeah, we can go window shop. And so, of course, they're like, well, is there a toy store? And so I go to the directory, and I'm looking, and I don't see any toy stores really, but I see a Spencer's. And I'm like, oh, Spencer's, that, took me back to the 90s and shopping malls. And Spencer's was a place where you could go for lava lamps and funny magnets and just kind of silly, yes, maybe edgy stuff, but movie posters and ironic t-shirts and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I think that's okay for 9-year-olds. So we walk in, and I'm again expecting lava lamps, ironic t-shirts, mood rings, whoopee cushions, things like that, pop culture things. But I have to tell you, friends, that Spencer's grew up. And by grew up, I mean it went full NC-17, and I missed the memo. So I'm walking initially, and I see some backpacks right out in front, because kids go back to school here even earlier than we go back to school. And so there was a couple that were kind of ironic, old school strawberry shortcake, something K-pop demon. And I'm like, okay. And that was pretty much the only thing that I was like, okay, cool. Then it was just lots of, really sexual t-shirts and jewelry. And then as we kind of are walking by this, and I'm still kind of there's what happened to the Spencer's. I knew then we hit the full section of sex toys. Now, I see this, and I immediately register it, and I'm you turn out of the store. And then I'm laughing, and it was fine. They didn't really notice anything. And I'm just what happened to Spencer's? Because none of the kind of silly gag kind of stuff was there at all. It was definitely much more, raunchy. And listen, I'm not a prude. Everything has its reason, but it was definitely not the same thing I remember. So I go home, and I'm telling my parents and my husband this later, and laughing more from a oh, thank goodness that they didn't start asking me what these things were, right? But then I'm like, Mom, was it always this way? And I just didn't pick up on it when I was in my teenage years, because I went to Spencer's a lot as a teenager. I worked in the mall for a while. I worked at Express, and there was a Spencer's. And it was I was allowed to go in there. It was a place where you would get silly birthday cards, or again, lava lamps and just stuff like that, and not what it was today. And so my mom's yeah, I mean, it was where you'd go to get over the hill kind of stuff for birthday parties and things like that. So then I start Googling, because I kind of felt I needed a witness, right? And of course, there is an entire Reddit thread of grown adults, again, these kind of geriatric millennials, having this exact same wait, what the hell happened to Spencer's moment? There are some gems in there. My favorite one includes a guy who talked about going in to buy his 10-year-old a lava lamp for Christmas, and the employee said that they were over, and I quote this, the behind the tentacle dildos. So, iconic customer service, a woman doing her job, pointing him to what he wanted, and a father having the same internal, what the hell happened situation, except with the Christmas flair. So this episode is not just about this was a funny mom story. That's part of it. But this is kind of what got me is there was this sort of whole cultural gaslighting situation. People who are my age who were like, oh, Spencer's, let's go in there. They have this fun stuff. And then being like, record scratch, what? This is not. And bringing their kids in and their teenage boys and everyone being mortified, right? So I kind of at first was like, whoa, Spencer's lost the plot a little bit. But it turns out that they didn't. They found it and they committed harder. And here is the business part of this episode, okay? So I feel like what happened was the lava lamp version of them in the 90s was being a little edgy. And it was for what that, time period could kind of hold, right? You could have a store in a mall that was edgy and had some of this kind of stuff in it. But in a mall that was a suburban mall, maybe not necessarily sex toys. Now what they're doing is they're not doing that anymore. So it wasn't an organic drift, because I actually found an old employee account in Reddit, an employee saying they'd worked there from 2003 to 2005, and that it was an executive decision. A new CEO came in, or a new owner, I can't quite remember, and literally was we're dropping gifts from the name because it used to be Spencer's Gifts. They changed the neon signage that they used to have, and now it's just Spencer's, and it's a different logo, which I did sort of flag that. And they swapped the kind of the sterling silver jewelry for body jewelry. They brought in a lot more apparel that was, again, not the kind of ironic apparel anymore. Definitely a much older, mature, foul-mouthed kind of apparel, which again, I don't have a problem with if I just know what I'm walking into, right? And leaned hard into the racier stuff, the NC-17, the 21 and over, on purpose with a plan. And that is the detail that made me want to share this with you, because this wasn't a company that just sort of drifted or got weird on accident. Somebody sat in a boardroom and said, let's stop pretending to be a little edgy and let's just do it. Let's just go there. And I think that's the difference. They were already a niche, right? Before that, the nerd and the geek merch, the pop culture stuff, kind of ahead of when it was cool to do that. They were a little bit ahead of the curve, right? And so they had this DNA already of that we carry what we want, we push boundaries, and we're not here to play it safe. You knew that Spencer's was a place where you could go to get something that was a little bit funnier, a little raunchier, a little not Hallmark, right? They were not trying to be Hallmark. It was always there. Apparently in 2003, they just turned up the volume and really went all in on the more sexual side of things. So this resonated with me, A, because it was funny, B, because when I did the deep dive, I was this is kind of interesting story. And also because it's really what I've been doing with my own brand over the last couple of months and weeks. Specifically, this summer, it has not been about becoming someone new or reinventing my whole business. It's been about turning up the volume on what was always underneath to attract more of the right people, to be much more clear about who I am and what I stand for, and to really let go of the version of myself that's sanding myself down for this professionalism or trying to make everybody happy or be something for everybody. And just really going in all the way. And that's Renegade. That's why my business is called Renegade Motherhood. And it always was that. And now it's just really, really being the fully Renegade experience, not being this Renegade light diet Renegade. Because there have been these specific places where I have been tempted to soften my volume. And so I'm really choosing the Spencer's move. And I think that's why I was laughing so much, was because it was this funny moment, but also kind of I see what you're doing, especially when I did a little bit of a deep dive. As much as we know, I did not fact check this. I didn't read a book on how Spencer's evolved. This was all based on Reddit. I'm going to preface that. So I could also be completely wrong, and it's my podcast, and I'm going to own that if it's not accurate, it's not accurate, but there's still a story here. So the idea of like giving yourself permission to go louder, which doesn't always mean volume. It just means to step more into your true authentic voice, brand, and identity versus being more quiet and palatable. And the other side of this is like now I have gone and I have told this story to my parents, to my husband. I have laughed. Like I almost peed my pants telling this story. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this on the podcast because that is the part that matters. Like a good brand, a good commercial, a good experience in a store, or even a funny experience in a store, or like a slightly shocking experience about something. It makes people talk. So I may not be taking my kids into Spencer's again. It might not be a store that I may not be their target audience right now. And that's okay because I know that now. I know that this is not a place I'm probably going to go again unless I have a very specific need, right? And if I do have that need, I know where to go now. But I'm going to remember this story and this store and this experience like viscerally, even though I was only in there for like probably 4 minutes. I am going to remember this for years. And I am taking this story and like turning it into a lot of different content because I related to it. Because it's not an accident. This is what happens when a brand stops trying to be liked by everybody and just fully commits to being itself. It becomes memorable. You don't forget it. And even if you don't buy from them, you remember it. So here's kind of what I'm sitting with. Here's the renegade reflection of the week for you to sit with is where have you been quietly turning your own volume down? I know I also talked about this on last week's episode, also about the 90s. So clearly I'm feeling nostalgic right now and having a lot of 90s things come to me. I talked last week about Ace of Base. If you didn't listen to that one, go back. It's also a quick listen. But, just this, like, what would it look like to do the opposite, to be so unmistakably, unapologetically yourself that people walk in expecting lava lamps and get like that and more. They get the full uncensored version of you. So that's the direction I'm going with this podcast, with Renegade Motherhood, with my brand, with a new website that will be live in the coming days is not louder, not softer, more me, not less. More me, not less. So I hope you enjoyed this story. And if you took nothing else out of it, it's maybe don't bring your kids into Spencer's Gifts unless you want to answer some questions. Or hey, if you need to spice some things up in the bedroom right now, you know exactly where to go. And that's not a bad thing either. So thanks for listening. I will see you on the next episode.